Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk News. I'm your host, Leticia Remauro, and it's Tuesday, October 7th, and NBC is still the worst news station in the universe. And I am so glad to have you with me today because I have more show than we can pack into 30 minutes. We are going to take a look into J.B. Pritzker. Um, boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. That's all I could say. Happy Tuesday, Colleen. How are you? Hello, Mama. Good to have you. And hello, Francine. Good to have you too. So, J.D. Pritzker, right? The guy who is telling everybody that he doesn't need the National Guard, that he doesn't want Trump in Chicago or in Illinois, that he's giving a whole bunch of guff about Trump. All of it lies because JB Pritzker is a known liar. Hello, Angela. Hello, Debbie. Hello, Debbie. Hello, Angela. Hello, Susan. He is a noted liar. As a matter of fact, the only one that lies more than Pritzker is Biden. Anyway, so he's having this whole big fight with Trump over the National Guard and whether or not it can be done. And clearly, the man has no idea what he's talking about when it comes to the United States Constitution. He just makes a fool of himself almost every single time he opens his mouth. But just a little background for those of you who didn't know. So he's worth $3.9 billion, just a little bit more than Nancy Pelosi. His family, he inherited his money from the Hyatt Hotels. Everybody knows the Hyatt Hotels. So he got about $1 billion from that. And then he started investing. And he went into a venture capital called the Pritzker Group Venture Capital, formerly New World Ventures. And he invested in tech startups, but notable involvements include co-founding Chicago Ventures and funding accelerators like TechStars Chicago and Built in Chicago, for focusing on early stage tech and innovation in the Midwest. Why does this matter? We're going to get to that in a minute. J.B. Pritzker needs the National Guard to keep him away from the fridge. Yes, that's true. Did he put any illegals in the Hyatt hotels? That's a good question. I don't know. Anyway, he also, if you ever took a cruise, he holds a Royal Caribbean cruise is one of my favorite, and TransUnion and Marmon Group, it's now part of Berkshire Hathaway, and he has donated quite a bit of money to Northwestern's law school, and he self-funded his 2018 campaign with $171 million and a half dollars. Okay, so that's who he is. He's got a lot of money, and he's used to getting his own way. Now, can anybody tell me if you remember or can imagine, besides governor and president, what would Pritzker have to do with Donald Trump? Anybody know? Come on, think about it a little bit. I'll tell you. So Trump's first venture in New York City was the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Midtown. Okay, it used to be the Commodore Hotel. And he got Grand Hyatt to sign before he even to sign as the hotel before he even purchased the property, really. So that family knows each other for a while. It's funny how these Democrat politicians are so out of touch with reality. Ask a normal citizen who lives in their city, and they say they want safe streets. Well, I'm going to show you that in a minute. But I just wanted to make you the connection between Trump and Pritzker. So the Grand Hyatt, Trump actually leveraged the Grand Hyatt name to get loans for that hotel. As a matter of fact, I used to be a frequenter of the bar there. We worked just up the road. And after work, we would go to the Grand Hyatt. It was that big thing back in the 80s. At any rate, So there was a tumultuous relationship between Trump and the Pritzkers, and ultimately they bought him out in the 90s, and bitter hatred on both sides between Trump and the Pritzkers. So what you are saying, they are rivals. Yes, indeed. Bitter. And Pritzker is doing everything that he can to go after Trump. Now there's more. Pritzker is in Illinois. Who else do you think that he's tight with? Who do you think he's tight with? Hello, Andrew Dorman, if I didn't say that. He's tight with Obama. So Obama and Pritzker go way back. As a matter of fact, his sister, I think it is. Let's see. Let me see if I have this right. His sister actually was one of the first. She worked on his campaign, but Pritzker heavily financed Obama's Senate run in 2004 and his 2008 presidential run. Okay, so think about that. He had a president on his side from the very beginning. Trump is the WWE Hall of Fame. He's going to kick his ass. Oh, yeah. Okay, both J.B. and Obama were in Chicago's Democratic machine, okay? They had Rahm Emanuel, who was later Obama's chief of staff and later Chicago mayor. And J.B.'s 2018 gubernatorial campaign echoed Obama's progressive messaging, and Obama endorsed J.B. during his 2018 and 22 campaigns. Pritzker Family Foundation and Obama Foundation, both Chicago-based, share goals around civic engagement and education. While no direct collaboration is documented, their overlapping networks, e.g. the University of Chicago, foster direct, indirect ties. Family members like Thomas Pritzker, okay, I want you to remember this name, Thomas Pritzker, was found in the Epstein files. He was the chairman of the Hyatt industry. So they all kind of ran together, right? Thomas Pritzker in the Epstein files. So we're drawing some lines together, huh? I should have made a Venn diagram. Damn it! If only I had time. As they say, with all things evil, follow the money. Yeah. But it gets much worse. Much worse. But I'm not going to show you the worst part. Yeah. Or maybe I should. Should I show you the worst part first and let us talk about it? Or should I show you the clips? Let's show the worst part first. Okay. So let's see. Where do I have to go for this? Okay. So Pritzker's claim to fame, Toiletgate. So he stole $331 in county taxes because he did this kind of bait and switch. They bought a big mansion for like $6 million. And in order not to have to pay enormous property tax, he took out all the toilets in the place, all of them, before the assessor came. And he wound up paying much lower tax. So that was the Cook County Inspector General labeled it a scheme to defraud taxpayers. There was a federal investigation started in 2019, running through the Biden administration years later, but it appears to have concluded without charges. That's interesting. Also, foster care abuse. Pritzker's administration promoted Aunt Martha's Integrated Care Center as a model for treating traumatized foster youth in 2019. In 2024, Injustice Watch investigation revealed years of unchecked abuse allegations, including, remember Thomas? Sexual assault and excessive force by staff at the state-funded facility. It closed in June 2024 amid scrutiny implicating DCF's oversight failure under Pritzker. The Pritzker and Epstein, okay, we just talked about this. Thomas unsealed Jeffrey Epstein court documents named Pritzker's cousin, Thomas Pritzker, in allegations of sexual misconduct by Virginia Giuffre. And we go on. Pritzker reportedly donated $1 million each to campaign for 2 Illinois Supreme Court justices, exceeding the $500,000 limit. And it's basically pay to play. And then he's just a liar. I mean, he lied about the pension fund, where the money was going. He said things were unconstitutional. I mean, he's just a liar. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you J.B. Pritzker. Now, again, Venn diagram. Let's talk about how interesting the cousin is in the Epstein files, and the foster care entity was sexually exploiting children. We know it's out there. The Q people have been talking about Obama and the sexual exploitation of children. But more importantly, not more importantly, as important, Pritzker needed a president, and he had one, right? Because he needed to pay his way out of, $330,000 should be nothing to somebody who's a billionaire, right? But the guy has been taking advantage of Chicago and the people of Illinois for decades. Hello, Kevin Young. How are you? Show us your Venn diagram. Yeah, I should have made one. Damn it. I have to make one. Trump in the WWE is well deserved, with thanks for good entertainment with Vince McMahon. Yeah, my son loved the WWE. Do you think Trump knows this? Because it's obvious, since you have this info, he must have access to this. Oh, definitely he knows this. Definitely. But that's the whole thing, is, Trump knows everything now. Everything that there could be, he knows. The thing is, how's he going to use it becomes the question. But why is Pritzker so insane over Trump wanting to send people to the National Guard to Illinois? Wouldn't it be better to keep people protected? I mean, because they're all begging for it. Yes, it is all very complicated, Maisie. And the thing that you should know too is that Chicago was kind of, other than Portland, was the epicenter for all of these organized protests. And Pritzker is invested in all kinds of tech companies all over the place that people use to communicate things like, let's everybody get together for a protest. Just saying. Not sure that my Venn diagram can connect that dot, but I think it can. Deep corruption, and Trump's revealed it. Oh, yes, absolutely. He's in a minority community which vote Democrat, and that's why he gets away with it. Who, Pritzker? It gets away with it because he pays everybody off, and because Chicago is the most corrupt that there is. I listened to the people of Chicago. Listen to what they had to say to Donald Trump.
President Trump acknowledged Chicago and our pleas for his help. More than 200 people have been shot. We've seen carjackings, robberies, even luxury stores looted in broad daylight. Young shooters are bold enough to post up at police headquarters. We need federal intervention. We need the IRS Criminal Division, DOJ, FBI, and an independent forensic audit of every dollar supposedly spent on crime prevention and homelessness. And yes, we need the military. What's happening here is nothing less than genocide in our communities. President Trump, I am pleading, come to Chicago, come to Illinois. Help us save our city before it's too late.
Some people told us we should postpone this press conference, but we know better. We remember when President Trump almost got assassinated and they wanted him to postpone his rallies. Not only did he not do it, but he told us to fight, fight, fight. And we refuse to let evil win. This is between good and evil. No, make no mistake about this. Violence and fear are the tools that corrupt and the lawlessness used to try to silence us. And silence has gotten us nowhere. Silence is what has allowed crime to explode, corruption to spread, and our communities to suffer. We will not be silenced anymore. We are tired of Governor Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson standing in front of these cameras and claiming to speak for the citizens of Chicago and Illinois.
Guards in, clean up this swamp. Yeah, send them in. I want them to come in.
Okay, here's my Venn diagram. Pritzker, Obama, and Epstein. So, you heard the people. The people want Donald Trump. Pritzker said it's unconstitutional. Pritzker said there was no crime. Pritzker said that Donald Trump was coming in to sow chaos. Pritzker wants to keep them on the plantation. I'm glad they are waking up. Oh, yeah. Well, this has been going on since Biden. Chicago Flips Red. These people who formed this group, Chicago Flips Red, have been attending city council hearings, state legislative hearings. It's really crazy. Amen. Thank God people are waking up to the truth and fighting back against their lies. They are. Hello, Mickey. Yes, I heard you were coming to visit. I'm looking forward to seeing you. So now, if we know that Pritzker has been throwing his money around, the question is why? I'm glad they're speaking out. Me too. The question is why is he throwing his money around? Well, when you get to that level of money, you become part of the globalist situation. So we saw that what he was willing to do to save $330,000, and he's a billionaire. So we saw what he was willing to do: rip out toilets and create a scheme. What else would he do for money? Sell the nation to China, as long as his family is taken care of? What else would he do? He has motive and an opportunity, right, to screw with Trump, and I believe he's been. And I think we all agree that the Biden administration was basically Obama 2.0. So that's when Pritzker gets elected. That's when all these scandals are uncovered. It was during his campaign. He won anyway. People of Chicago heard all of this, and he won anyway. Or did he? The notorious thing about Illinois and Chicago particularly is that they have fuzzy math when it comes to counting votes. So, I don't know. Something ain't right in Denmark, and we know that it's more than just the Hyatt Hotel rivalry. But Trump and Pritzker know each other, and they have for a while. But Pritzker is panicking. He's panicking. You want to hear? Listen to his panicked speech. Listen.
Since the beginning of this invasion, families have been snatched up off the streets.
Wait a minute. I want you, all of you, to listen really carefully to how he describes what he thinks Trump is doing. And then when we come back, let's talk about what it sounds like.
Since the beginning of this invasion, families have been snatched up off the streets or removed from their homes, zip-tied and detained for hours, including especially U.S. citizens and legal residents of our state. And in the words of CBP Chief Patrol Agent Greg Bavino, they're being chosen by how they look. Peaceful protesters have been hit with tear gas and shot with rubber bullets. Journalists simply reporting the facts on the ground have been targeted and arrested. U.S. citizens, including children, have been traumatized and detained. This escalation of violence is targeted and intentional and premeditated. The Trump administration is following a playbook: cause chaos, create fear and confusion, make it seem like peaceful protesters are a mob by firing gas pellets and tear gas canisters at them. Why? To create the pretext for invoking the Insurrection Act so that he can send military troops to our city. He wants to justify and normalize the presence of armed soldiers under his direct command.
Insurrection? Sound familiar? Does any of that sound familiar? Especially if you follow January 6th? Does any of that sound familiar? People from New York better pay attention to this, because Mamdani will cause the same problem here. You bet he will. We need President Trump to send troops to New York City before it gets too bad. He's doing what he says Trump is doing right. Pritzker is a pure liar, 100% liar. Trump takeover, that's what he is scared of. Listen, he just basically took J6 and what actually happened to people who were protesting in J6 and said that Trump was doing it to him. Well, we know that Trump isn't that. Well, we know that the protests in Chicago, on the streets of Chicago and Portland and California, are not peaceful protests. We got George Floyded once. We're not going to get George Floyded again. Those are not peaceful protests. To say that shooting tear gas or rubber bullets or whatever into the crowd is starting an insurrection or is starting chaos, which then Trump can call an insurrection. Isn't that what they did on J6? The people in the Capitol were invited in. Then all of a sudden, the police officers, not Capitol Police, it was somebody else, some other group, started shooting not only pellets, but tear gas and all kinds of things into the crowd, who was peaceful, who was doing nothing, who was waiting in line, walking through on the red carpet, not breaking anything, not doing anything. It wasn't until the cops started shooting at people that things got out of control. Guy got shot in the face with a rubber bullet. It put a hole right through his cheek. If I understand correctly, kids were snatched, definitely requires National Guard intervention. No, kids weren't snatched. What happened is that some of these people were hiding, some of the illegal migrants were hiding in apartment buildings, and they were hiding behind their children. So they had to actually, because the migrants would not cooperate and put their children in front of them, ICE had to secure the children so that they could get at the migrant, who, by the way, remember, their crime isn't just being in this country illegally. Their crime is that they are either rapists or murderers or a plethora of other things that they had done in their country or in ours. The left is all about projecting and gaslighting and violence. Yeah. And Ashley Babbitt got shot. Yes, she did. Because there were no guns. And J6, no protester had a gun. The only people that had guns on J6 were the FBI that was in the crowd or the police. And remember, Trump said, let me send in the National Guard. But Pelosi refused it. And let me just explain this for those of you that don't know. No entity can enter the Capitol without the approval of Pelosi, of the Speaker, and of the Senate. There's actually a committee that meets to decide what's going on with the Capitol. And there's a security committee. And that security committee has to approve anybody coming into the Capitol. And that supersedes the president. All right. The president cannot just willy-nilly send troops, police, anybody into the Capitol. They have to be invited in by the Speaker of the Senate, or the leader of the Senate, and this committee, the leader and the Speaker actually appoints. This committee is 7 members. So why does this all matter? Why are we so interested in Pritzker? We're interested in Pritzker because I believe he's part of the original cabal. I believe that he's part of the group that put together the playbook to undermine America. I believe that he has the money, he has the information through his tech companies, and the ability to communicate with large groups of people. I believe that those tech companies can be used in a myriad of different ways, including maybe to even count votes. I believe that Pritzker and Obama and Biden and Clinton, unholy alliance. And I'm sure the Bush family is involved in it. I believe that the people who were in the first Trump administration, a lot of them were holdovers from Bush or Obama. And I believe those were the ones, and we know that many of them betrayed Trump. They had a plan, and that plan was to get that caravan here in time to count for the 2020 census. They didn't get him here in time. Everything they're guilty of is what they're accusing Trump of. Absolutely. He probably helped elevate Obama, who really caused a big divide in America. Obama was, the first office he ever held was United States Senator. He was a community organizer before that. He spent 4 years in the Senate before they ran him against Hillary for president, and he won. Think about that. That's unheard of. Absolutely unheard of. 4 years in elected office, and by the way, your first elected office is in the U.S. Senate? Huh? Yeah, that's Chicago for you. But, going back to all of this is, we were talking about the census. I heard today, and I haven't had a chance to really dig down, but I'm going to report it anyway, and maybe we'll all dig down together. I understand that the caravan that we talked about was coming over in 2018, right? The same year that Pritzker was running for governor, by the way. So the caravan was headed this way, and Trump headed them off at the pass, so to speak. So they couldn't be counted in the 2020 census because they didn't get here until Biden became president in February of 2021. The first thing that he did was reverse Trump's border security policy, all the things that Trump did to stop the caravan from coming. And from that point on, we had there was a hemorrhage into our country of people from not just Mexico, all over the world. The interesting thing that I understand is that the 2020 census, somehow or another, now you got to think about it, right? Got to think about it. COVID was rampant. People were leaving blue states to go to red states because blue states were all shut down. They were under authoritarian rule, the blue states. But somehow they all gained people in the census count. And this was before the caravan got here. Could they have rigged those numbers in the census count, presuming that the caravan was going to get through? So they had the plan in place and they just used it? Illinois, New York, California. I don't know. I have to really dig deep into this. I haven't dug into it. Maybe you all will. But this is what I understand, is that the blue states gained people and then gained seats. Something for us all to think about. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.